Duke and Florida State. Florida State, one of those teams rounding into form. One of the most explosive offenses in America, rounding into form. Defense, rounding into form. They are hosting a Duke team that has played a lot of big games already against a lot of physical teams. They are a 13.5-point favorite. They are at home. Make the case for Duke to make this a close game.
Riley Leonard might be back. That's the midweek buzz at Duke. That would be my starting point if you wanted to make a case of why a 13, 14 point underdog can win. It's that Duke is a well-coached team with a good defense, going on the road, getting a starting quarterback back. Now, saying all that, if you want to look at last week's game, if Duke does not have Riley Leonard, Henry Beeline was 4-12 for 107 yards. Duke scored on an 83-yard touchdown run and a 69-yard touchdown pass. So basically their offense was on two plays. So
Nice.
a nice 69-yard touchdown toss there for Duke's offense. But Duke's defense, good enough to make it a game if Riley Leonard is healthy. And we saw earlier this year, he was kind of carrying that Duke offense. Maybe this one is close, I think, but to your point, I think Florida State is rounding into form. I mean, they crushed Syracuse last week and took care of Virginia Tech the week before, as they should have as a top 5 team.
What I find interesting, 21 plays for Florida State of 30 yards or more. Like I said, that's top 10 in the country, one of the most explosive offenses. I am fascinated from a nerd standpoint of what Mike Elko is going to do to attack the Travis deep game, like the deep passing game. Like, what are they going to do? Do they go shell coverage? Do they go too high safety look like we're seeing in the NFL against great quarterbacks? Do they go man-to-man and blitz? Like, there's so many different ways to do it. Zone blitz. I'm fascinated to see Mike Elko versus Mike Norvell in this situation. It's going to be awesome. X's and O's. Even if the game is like Vegas has it as a two touchdown spread. Even if the game is kind of at that 2 touchdown place, this is what I feel is going to happen, is that it's probably close in the first quarter and Florida State gets like a 2 touchdown lead and it just sort of stays there, right? Like, they kind of match scores. Okay, Florida State scores a touchdown, Duke kicks a field goal. Florida State kicks a field goal, Duke scores a touchdown, and it kind of just stays at like 10, 12, 14 points the entire game. And at that point, once the game levels off, what does the X's and O's schematic like strategy look like for Elko versus Norvell? I find that to be really interesting.
Johnny Wilson, the receiver for Florida State, should be back this week. He missed last week's game against Syracuse. So the offense has an even another weapon for Florida State. Duke is also 9th in the ACC against the run. We saw Trey Benson, Toafili, Florida State's backfield has really kind of started to go kind of kick it up a notch since the off week and after the game against Clemson. So that could be an area where Florida State looks to attack. You know, the Florida State offense at times this year has kind of gone from, I don't want to say kind of in these lulls or funks or whatever, but, you know, to your point, you know, I think they could jump on Duke, and I think the game could kind of settle in and Duke could kind of steady itself and make it closer in the second half. But I still think Florida State at home, they've been rolling. I think they keep rolling this weekend.
I agree. Give me the Noles. I'm not gambling on it, but I like that minus 13.5. If I was gambling on it, I would take Florida State.